Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. Today we have Vivek Prasannan on the channel from Polkadex. Really excited to talk about this project today. And of course, we've got a lot of really interesting stuff to chat about Polkadex. So first and foremost, Vivek, would love for you to give a quick introduction to folks that are watching and let them know how you got into the crypto space.
Thank you so much, Shoshi, for inviting me to this interview.
Sure.
And I'm Vivek, and I'm the executive director of Polkadex. I'm an engineer myself, and I got into crypto way back in 2013 through a forum called Bitcoin Talk. A friend of mine introduced there, and I was, as curious as I was, I went through it, and I was really excited to find out about Bitcoin and started learning about it, and also tried to do some hobby mining. Myself, I started off with getting a 44 gigahash, mining boards. Tried to set up in my office. That's my, first attempt to learn how Bitcoin works. And the mining soon became difficult, from your office desk anyway. So, but I was very curious to learn it. So I got some hands into some Bitcoins. I tried to buy some and try to trade with it. And that was since I was not a trader, right? So, but when you come to this world, you try to acquire the tokens by trading. You're forced to trade in some of those exchanges. Back then, it was kind of very risky. So you could just, so it was nothing more than a hobby for me, right? Initially. But right from the beginning, I was really curious to understand how things progressed, and all of a sudden there was a thread in the same forum about how to make decentralized trading possible, right? So many engineers were trying to come up with new ideas, and one of them was BitShares, right? So I was very captivated by BitShares, and I personally prefer to try and trade in BitShares for some time. So so on and off, since I've had my own other primary focus in business area. I was an IT consultant myself. I had my own firm here in India, right? So, so on and off, I've been experimenting with a few things. And 2018 is when I realized that we could work something on top of BitShares, right? Creating a decentralized exchange by removing some of the problems it had right from the beginning, because I used to trade on centralized and decentralized back then, for regular people who were in the space, they are used to it. And I really like the idea that, the assets could be in your custody when you are trading, and you're basically, having a smart contract in place, and it's much more safer. And on top of that, all the hacks and everything happening around you, you're always questioning the rationale of giving your tokens to someone else to trade. So you always prefer to trade in decentralized exchanges. So I had this idea of, how to make this thing, profitable for actual traders, right? Because it had its own problems. It was very slow. Even BitShares back then, 3 seconds was supposed to be really good, but you can imagine 3 seconds is kind of not very feasible for regular day traders and people who are trading with bots and everything. And very few bots try to connect to these interfaces because they already made profits on the centralized exchanges, right? So I tried to create an improvement protocol there by working with a team in Amsterdam, and that is part of BitShares Improvement Protocol 57, where we tried to come up with a vested wallet concept, where you are basically taking control of the user funds for a finite period of time, like a smart contract, and then allowed you to have high frequency trading on those tokens and settle it on a cliff vesting period. Basically, you when the user wants to withdraw those funds back to the main wallet, he has to request, and the platform would actually release it after a certain time of locking. So you're basically locking away those funds for trading, right? So that was the original concept, and it was actually good, but because of issues with BitShares in terms of programmer availability and the way they were also facing issues with the gateway, etc. Right? They had centralized gateway system where you had to trust another third-party gateway to get something up and running. And to acquire a license to become a gateway was too prohibitive for someone who's trying to start off. And there were instances where I think many of them were shut down by the regulators. Like I believe Crypto Bridge was one of them. It was a nice exchange back then. And then we also had the hack on Open Ledger. So that was kind of the nail in the coffin for that attempt. I just left it there and just was waiting for the right moment to come back and try it again. And that's when, early 2020, we met Dipansh and Gautam, and, they were actually working on, my co-founders for Polkadex, they were working on an algorithm to improve the consensus speed on distributed systems. They were working on an interesting algorithm. And that's when we came together and, we decided, okay, we could try and get to work on a decentralized exchange. And then Gautam introduced me to Polkadot. And from there, it's been the rest, I think you know already what happened after that.
Yeah. Then you can infer. I mean, listening to you talk, right, it seems like since the very beginning, your bridge into the crypto world was Bitcoin. A lot of people actually say, when I ask this question, because I talk to a lot of people, it's Bitcoin talk often that got folks into the space in the first place, which is cool. Yeah. And it seems like you've been really dedicated to solving for decentralized exchanges and giving folks that self-custody way to get exposure to different crypto assets. So it's really awesome to hear, right? That it's not just something you're like, hey, one day, I want to build this. This seems like one of your big passions, right? Building decentralized exchanges.
Yeah, this wasn't created for some sort of doing something in crypto or anything like that. It's been a problem which has been bothering me for a long time.
Love it. Yeah.
Imagine, because those who've traded in decentralized exchanges like either Delta, and you know what happened, most of these cases, right? Either they become too popular that the authorities have to shut it down, or it becomes too prohibitive for the regular traders to come and make a profit. So they, one or the other, they just get shut down.
Yeah.
Right. So it's been an ongoing problem. And I think the closest that we came to solve is Uniswap, right? Because of the beauty of the protocol itself and the way the industry has been looking for something like that. And that really clicked. And but personally, I feel, it's my opinion. I don't judge people, but I feel there's a lot more to be gained by creating traditional order book-based exchange, which is similar to a centralized exchange by still not giving custody of your funds, which is a great way to trade crypto in the future.
Got it. So
that's basically the holy grail, right? We want to shift the entire system up because that after some time, maybe a few years from now, maybe 5 years, 10 years, who knows? We got to have these tokenized effect in many of the the broad spectrum of industries. Probably the shares and everything that the way you trade now will probably be shifted to something blockchain based, right? And even then, having to have a central layer of risk is not really good, given that the technology allows you to solve that right now. So there's a lot of ways to solve that. So it's a matter of perfecting that. So that's also been the passion behind it.
Awesome. You talked about two big things, right? The first one is, ubiquity, right? And the second one was regulatory posture. I'm curious, obviously the name Polkadex immediately sort of, viscerally makes people think about Polkadot, which folks that are watching might know is a broad interoperability network, with really, really exciting potential. Was that the main goal of for this project, was to sort of leverage the technology that's coming with Polkadot to give folks sort of a one-stop shop decentralized exchange where you could bring in assets from various different blockchain networks?
Exactly. I think it's very important to realize that whatever technology that you build, you need to have an ecosystem to flourish, right? You basically cannot create a standalone system and ask everyone to come and use it because there are already established protocols in place which people are comfortable using. Like if you want to create a smart contract now, right? You can just create it for a few $100, right? Because it's become that familiar to developers. You have more Solidity developers than Rust developers right now, since we are facing that problem. So there is a way the industry is moving. So you do not need to fight against that movement. You basically need to create systems which will go with that and allow, whatever you create should merge with the overall flow of the industry. So that's why we, when we looked at Polkadot, I believe they already are solving the problem of interoperability, which is crucial for any exchange in the future, right? Any decentralized exchange. Liquidity is a big factor. And having an ecosystem like that is a big advantage. And that's also another reason. Plus, I mean, to start off, I don't think we chose Polkadot for Polkadot. We were trying to solve certain problems which required very intricate designing of the blockchain itself. And that is something we could achieve with Substrate, which is the framework that drives Polkadot. And that's where we decided that this is how it's going to be, because it gives you a lot of low-level control than a virtual machine-based blockchain like Ethereum, right? You get a lot of low-level control on the network side, and you can create all sorts of new ideas on top of it. You can separate out certain consensus parts, So that kind of control is not there. Programmability, that's been the main feature why we decided that.
Got it. So Substrate was the thing that really attracted you in the sense that it's an accelerator, right? Substrate is a set of tools that helps you build out really unique blockchain networks for a purpose. Okay.
Exactly.
That's great. And in the future, right, because you're built on Substrate, I mean, I'm sure you get this question all the time, would the plan eventually be maybe to go for, into the Parachain auctions, try and get a Parachain slot in the Polkadot network? Is it just for now kind of integrate with different blockchains to give folks access to assets and see where things go? Like, what's the plan?
Well, the plan is actually to implement the logic on our own chain, right?
Okay.
So it's a very complex logic because we are not just relying on the liquidity coming in from Polkadot. We have a complex set of architecture, if you look at it, because primarily we are trying to change the experience of DEX, which means that you need to have a layer which allows you to do high frequency trading, which is close to impossible with a decentralized distributed network, because the network itself takes anything more than 100 milliseconds to interact with each other, whatever algorithm you have. You can improve the throughput, but you can never bring down the latency beyond a certain level because you're essentially on a network.
Yep.
So we had to go through several iterations of our architecture, and we had to come up with a new one back in March, April. We decided to include TEE-based architecture, which gives you near native hardware, interaction with the requests coming in. And so we want to focus on that first and not worry too much about the connectivity that you get with Polkadot, because it is going to come. And if by solving these problems, we are sure that the community will actually help us to get a slot with Polkadot, because it is also the need of the hour to get that if we solve all these problems, right? Because we are solving a broad set of issues here. I mean, not just a DEX that gets a parachain. It's not a DEX with a parachain. It's a DEX that solves a lot of problems. It gets connected to a parachain for liquidity, right? So that's why we are going parallelly working on that. And the goal is to get a parachain. Definitely, we will be going for the second slot of options which are coming up. The first slots are getting filled now with with more established projects which have been around for a couple of years. I know some projects are waiting for 2 years to get this whole thing working.
Yeah.
So we're not really in a hurry, but probably to demonstrate the capacity of this, the platform, we may try and bridge it with other chains, even if it's a little expensive in the beginning, to showcase how liquidity can actually come in and interact with the user, right? Because user interaction is something that we are trying to solve deeply, right? It's part of the project itself. So it's going parallelly. We'll be working on the order book as well as trying to get these bridges up and running with Ethereum and Polkadot.
Yeah, and what originally drove me to to look into Polkadex, and then we ended up getting in contact. I was pretty excited about it is because it really is truly tracking towards that goal of feeling like a centralized exchange in terms of the speed, in terms of the fact that it's an order book based exchange, and one that also has the best parts of crypto, which is allowing for self custody, allowing you to get access to a wide variety of different cryptocurrency pairs across different ecosystems. I think that those are some like the crown jewels of decentralized exchanges.
Right. So when you're going for it, you have to go for the holy grail when you're trying something, right? So we are very actively invested on R&D on trying to get connected with other natively, get connected with blockchains like Bitcoin and Litecoins, because these are all derivatives of the same signature system.
Mm-hmm.
So we are applying some methods to see if we can actively natively bridge it with Bitcoin, because the issue with Texas and the layer 2 based solutions is that you are actually killing the experience of the user to use it. Actually, you probably need to acquire some tokens, some other chain, then you'd use those tokens to move your Bitcoins to that chain, and then from there you have to move it to another chain. You're actually forcing people to do so many things just to solve this problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we are trying to approach it in a different way. We are approaching from reverse, right? What is the user looking at, right? So what is he having in an exchange like Coinbase or somewhere? What is he experiencing? And how we can actually achieve that same experience without compromising what I know it's not an easy thing to do, but if you try enough, you can actually have these integrations, because now messaging and cross-chain communication is actually happening. So the reason why we have these middle layers, we are trying to create economies in between the two chains, right? You need to drive those network, you need to keep those tokens valuable. So we are trying out methods where we can natively integrate so that at some time in the future, you basically should be able to move Bitcoins from the main network to something like an exchange like this in one click.
Right.
That's the holy grail, what you want to achieve. So that's something we will be trying very actively, and that we do have some breakthroughs on that front as well, which we haven't really published yet in any of these documents.
Mm-hmm.
It's an internal project. But before that, I think we will continue to have these already existing technologies integrate with that. Like we do have certain open sourced, trustless bridges available. For the time being, we'll use that and try to bring in liquidity and work towards that holy grail, because that's where you need to get for people to actually use this more than some kind of a purist dream of, it should be more than that. It should be something that, regular folks should be able to use, right?
Yeah.
Just like how you use, like a Coinbase or Binance or Kraken, or it should be as simple as that.
Something easy to use, but also powerful in the sense that you still maintain, custody of assets.
I think powerful is almost, I think if you're able to pull off the current architecture, it should be able to create a non-custodial exchange with really good speed and meat when you trade, right? Mm-hmm. But interoperability is still a difficult thing to achieve. Sorry?
Yeah, it's burgeoning. Like it's a brand new space. Yeah.
Exactly. So, whatever we try, there may be other 100 questions, why could we try this way or that way? So some people are trying with another way. Well, it's fine. Everybody's free to try their own ways. But, it's the important thing is what you believe in, you work and show how it's going to work, and find out solutions, because nobody has, walked this path before. So if you're free to take your shots and show people that it's possible, right? Because people are fed up with order book. I mean, can you look around? Very few people are working on order book because they're fed up with it, because they know it's not going to work on a blockchain, right?
Yeah.
So people are okay with swaps, and that's why we have different versions of swaps, and nobody really want to, spend their while until technology improves. But I think the kind of architecture we have is kind of fairly new. I think it's the first time that someone's actually applying the trusted execution enclaves for solving the custody problem. So let's see how that works out.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm really excited to see how things pan out. That being said, I do want to ask as well, like kind of right before we wrap up here, the rest of 2021, right? We've got about half the year left, a little less than half the year. I assume
Right.
it's going to be really busy for Pokedex. Like what's on the horizon for the rest of the year? Obviously, you've got mainnet launch coming up in like towards the fall. Like what else is on the books right now?
Right. I think the first and foremost would be to migrate all of our ERC20 tokens over to mainnet. So that launch is going to happen in September. So the audit is already going on with the bridges that we have made. And
Hmm.
so that's the first thing. Second is the release of the audit book and the audit for that. And the only reason why it may get slightly delayed would be the time we need from, we may need to do a couple of audits before we launch it in a live environment, right?
Hmm.
So the coding and everything, our part of the work should be over by September, you know. So we may need to wait a little further until more we could have bug bounties and things like that to make
Right.
it more robust and before we go for the launch. But otherwise, I think I think this year end, by the time, it's October, and we should be able to showcase. Yeah, that's the plan. It's a long horizon, though. We do have so many plans to add additional layers to it, like margin trading and lending and all those things. This comes with it once we
Hmm.
first solve these initial set of problems.
Got it. That makes sense. And so the brunt of the work now is really just, you know, hardening, auditing, responding to any bugs or performance issues or other things that might come
Exactly.
up in that process. Shit by the end of the year, and then
Right.
once you're
Parallelly
there,
work on the parachain. Parallelly
right?
just work on the para because we have a team focused on that. That's separate. But I'm just saying it just go through, all of these should go parallelly.
Awesome, awesome. So I mean, Vivek, I really appreciate you taking the time to sort of walk through the journey to where you are now, what's going to happen here in the next several months. Really exciting stuff with Pokedex. I will definitely be a user of Pokedex, and I would definitely say come back and join me again on the channel maybe towards the end of the year when we're approaching or mainnet just launches, and we'll do maybe like a walkthrough or tutorial for folks that are watching.
Absolutely, Ashoshi. I think we should come back and discuss about it up sometime, and it should be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
That sounds great. Thank you so much for being here. And everyone who's watching, thank you very much. Links will be in the description to information about Pokedex. And of course, please do give them a follow on the social media of your choice. Thank you very much. And until next time, cheers.
thank you. Bye bye.